Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Please be seated. Well, welcome everyone, especially those that are watching on TV, and Happy New Year to everyone. Our very first meeting of 2018. So I think it'll be a reasonable agenda tonight and get everyone back to doing what they need to do. With that, first item of business, Madam Clerk.
Roll call, Your Worship. I've taken the roll and all members of council are present.
Good. Next item, please.
A motion to adopt this evening's agenda would be in order.
Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Parker. Any additions or changes? Seeing none, call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, please.
A motion to confirm the minutes of the regular meeting of council held December 18th.
Moved by Councillor Harwood, seconded by Councillor Chaboyer. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, please.
Under the order of delegations, Your Worship, a presentation from Lois McDonald and Bernie Crisp on behalf of Brandon Riverbank, Inc.
Very good. Come on ahead.
We're going to tag team, Your Worship, councillors. We're going to tag team in the annual update for to the City Council, the Brandon Riverbank Inc. The 2017 in review, and as a nonprofit charitable organization responsible for the stewardship and development of the Assiniboine River corridor, on behalf of the City of Brandon and the Brandon Riverbank Inc., had a very successful year. And it's a pleasure to present this to you. Strong visitation numbers at the Riverbank Discovery Center with over 13,700 tourists in 2017, contributing to the 1.8 million tourists who visited the Southwest region annually, generating $211 million in tourism expenditures. Another 42,272 guests visited the Riverbank Center to attend special events such as Canada Day, where we had 18,000 plus, and the Ribfest, where another 18,000. Total estimated visitations to 2017 is 57,383, and a 125% increase over the 2016 statistics. The 2017 in review continuing, we promoted Brandon and the Southwest region and Manitoba to thousands of tourists traveling in honor of Canada 150. Continued to provide leadership in the tourism industry locally, regionally, and provincially. And in saying that, our general manager, Lois McDonald, was appointed as a vice chairperson of Travel Manitoba, and we're very proud of that fact. We delivered all the aspects of tourism services agreements with the City of Brandon, including the operation of the Discovery Center 360 days of the year, 2018 to 2020. The operating agreement is now in place. And we also contributed to the Curling Strategy Committee, which landed the 2019 Tim Hortons Brier. In 2017 also, we had over 1,380 children learned about plants and animals, wetlands, and environmental stewardship in the living classroom that surrounds the Riverbank Discovery Center. And we hosted the inaugural West Region Envirothon in April with over 75 high school students competing. And I'll tell you, that was some experience. The river stabilization, and another item that was done at the Riverbank this year was the Riverbank stabilization material was installed at the Riverbank Discovery Center through the City of Brandon's South Dyke contract work, and I want to thank the City of Brandon for this particular project. It's been a long time coming, since 2011, and we're very, very proud and happy that this has been completed. Now I'll turn it over to Lois, and Lois is going to talk about the Back to the River Master Plan. But I just want to say, on behalf of our board, thank you very much for your support, and it's very much appreciated as we move into the 2018 and the up to the 2020 agreement that we have with the City of Brandon. Once again, thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernie, and thank you to Mayor and Council for having us for our annual update. So the Back to the River Master Plan, as I think many of us are familiar with, was a plan that was adopted by our board and by the City of Brandon Council back in 2016, and we certainly have been moving forward on bringing it to reality and getting certainly the first steps moving ahead. So one key piece in helping us do that this year was launching a video which provided a 3D reality in imagining a number of the projects around the Discovery Centre particularly. We worked with Altus Group, who approached our organization and put in significant in-kind contribution to the project, and we did launch this 3D video of master plan elements around the Discovery Centre and just helping everyone imagine what it will look like in the coming years. It's a 6-minute video, so we didn't have time in our 10-minute slot to play it. I know some of you were able to join us at the launch, and it is on our Brandon Riverbank Inc. website if anyone has an opportunity to watch it. So a lot of work was done in 2017 to lay the foundation for moving the entire master plan forward. It's a 20-year master plan, so obviously it takes a long time to put a lot of the projects in place, but a lot of foundation has been being done over the last year and will continue into the future. Discovery Gardens, we're moving ahead on planning and getting some of the Discovery Gardens around the Discovery Centre, starting to make use of a lot of the material that was salvaged from Eleanor Kidd and is now in storage, and so 2017 will see lots of planning and hopefully some gardening as well to start moving that initiative forward. I continue myself and Councillor Fawcett. Many thanks to Councillor Fawcett for his support, especially on this Peter Sawatsky Sculpture Park. We are working with the artist and laying a lot of the early foundation to make sure that we have art and sculptures that are in place and available for the development of the park in the years to come. We continue to work on wetland restoration and working on the first steps of the paddling cove, which will be put in place directly to the south of the Discovery Centre, working with Ducks Unlimited as well to make sure that we get our remaining pond functional and a safe place to access the water for our education and environmental stewardship. We're also cultivating a number of Indigenous partnerships that we will leverage to start developing programming around the Discovery Centre to provide education and information on a number of Indigenous plants, for example, healing plants and many other educational things that can be connected in with our Indigenous partners. And this is obviously leading up to the development of the Spirit Park project, which is outlined in the master plan. And we have been reviewing the invasive weed survey and are working on the next steps for habitat regeneration, which will happen in a number of locations throughout the Assiniboine River corridor. The first project that we embarked on started in September of 2017, and that's Festival Park. This is an artist's rendering of the stage and amphitheatre. I think everyone around the council table is familiar with this project. It's a signature venue within the Assiniboine River corridor. It will feature a 3,000-person amphitheatre with a covered stage, picnic shelters, and a pathway system. Construction started in September. As I mentioned, a lot of the major earthwork has been completed. What you see there is the gabion baskets, which are in place for the seating units of the amphitheatre. And in the next couple of weeks, we will see the stage cover itself start to take shape. So the stage and picnic shelters will be built throughout the winter, and the anticipated completion is summer of 2018. So very excited to see those transformations happening. From a funding perspective, obviously the City of Brandon's support with a loan to fund the project has been integral to our success. Thank you very much again to the City of Brandon for supporting the project with this kind of a creative project and vision. It's allowed us to complete construction in one phase, which is key, as we know, to prevent having to go through multiple phases and experience escalating costs. We've been fundraising, obviously, throughout 2017 to put together the plan to repay the loan, and that will continue into 2018. It's been very successful so far. We've sold trees, shrubs, native prairie grasses, benches, seats, fireplaces, and picnic shelters, and there is more of all of those things available for sponsorship, and we continue to work with individuals, corporations, and granting partners. We've registered online so we can accept donations through Canada Helps. And of course, the City of Brandon's annual capital contribution to our projects and to Festival Park is integral to our success, because it allows us to leverage funds from other levels of government, provincial and federal. We just received provincial support through a provincial community program, as well as foundations and private funders. So having, not only having a loan, of course, is very key, but having core capital funding helps us to drive this project forward, and frankly wouldn't be nearly as successful as it was without the support of the City of Brandon on both of those fronts. Just an overview in wrapping up. Financials overall for the organization of Brandon Riverbank Inc. Obviously, the Back to the River Master Plan and the Festival Park project are part of our financial picture, but for the overall organization, we certainly saw strong budget performance again in 2017. Facility rentals and program bookings exceeded our projections by 50%, which is really kudos to the staff who work very, very hard every day to accommodate as many bookings throughout our facility as we can manage, accommodate programming, and make sure that we take on as many programs as we can to see that kind of budget success, but of course to ensure that as many students as possible experience the area. And our gift shop and souvenir sales outpaced budget by about 100%. A lot of that can be attributed to a very successful Canada Day. We had thousands of people through our facility, which was fantastic, but actually had to reorder souvenirs to get us through the rest of the year. So it was wonderful to see so many people out and celebrating, certainly for Canada 150. 5-year lease renewals with both tenants of the Riverbank Discovery Centre were negotiated in 2017. The facility will be mortgage-free at the end of 2018, and this coming year we will put in place a review to ensure that we have sufficient capital and maintenance reserves in place. Obviously, it's now a 20-year-old building, and we want to make sure that we're fiscally prudent and that we have all of the funding in place to look after any issues that may arise. And certainly the City of Brandon's support through the 2018 budget process is an integral piece of our overall funding model. We do what we do on behalf of the City of Brandon and consider the city to be not only our parent organization, but obviously fantastic partners in moving the Assiniboine River Corridor forward. And we look forward to working with all of City Council in launching Festival Park and seeing lots of movement forward in a number of the other projects that I've mentioned as well. And all of these things will help us to build a premier green space for our community's celebration, education, and recreation. So, next steps. We'll continue fundraising for Festival Park. Construction will recommence, as I mentioned, in mid-January. We're laying the groundwork for a number of master plan projects. And we are participating in Place Branding Initiative through Brandon Tourism, and will act as a key partner in launching that new brand that will be coming on in February. There's an initiative in early February, and certainly we are a key part of that in moving that forward. And we'll continue to build on the incredible momentum that we saw in 2017. Huge increases in the number of visitors, and we look forward to welcoming that many visitors and more again in 2018. And helping everyone, visitors and residents, get back to the river. So thank you again for all of your support. We couldn't do what we do without you, and we certainly look forward to exciting times for the new year.
Very good. Thank you for an excellent presentation to both you, Lois, and Bernie. And I think we probably have some questions already. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I do have a couple. Through you to Bernie and to Lois. Can you maybe give us some idea on the master plan, just on the steps for habitat regeneration, just exactly, what do you have in mind for it, and where would the regeneration take place?
Well, so we've conducted an invasive weed survey throughout the Assiniboine River corridor. Unfortunately, the flood actually brought in a lot of unfriendly weeds, and they have been taking over in some areas for sure. So we were successful in getting summer students in place to do an invasive weed survey throughout the river corridor. And so we're just distilling that data now to kind of prioritize from which weeds really are the most concern. We've been working with the City of Brandon Parks and Recreation Department, and then once we have our priority areas in place and the areas that we know that need attention, it's a matter of working with the City of Brandon, then also working to access some funding to begin regenerating the habitat by removing the invasive weeds. Some are not very easy to get rid of, and bringing in some specialty organizations and companies. Ducks Unlimited does certainly some work in this area. Native Plant Solutions, which is a subsidiary of DU, they actually conducted the ecological assessment that was done as part of the master plan, and then we will look at bringing them on as a partner to help us. It's a broad issue that requires a lot of different partners.
Great, thank you. And just follow up, Your Worship, if I might. Just on the fundraising, Lois, where can Brandonites get a hold of you if they want to contribute? Sponsoring trees, benches, shrubs,
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
Well, they can come to the Discovery Center. We're open 7 days a week, so certainly come down and have a visit, and we'll talk about the project and see what their interests are, and certainly help match them up with a gift that works. Or as I mentioned, through Canada Helps, you can go online to Canada Helps and then search for Brandon Riverbank Inc., and people can make their contribution directly online as well.
Great, thank you very much. And once again, thank you for the presentation.
Very good. I lost track of any other hands, if I saw any or not. Maybe not. Okay, sounds like we're good. Fantastic project. Looks like you had a great year, so that's nice to see. Weather, Mother Nature cooperated a little bit, so put the river to bed. Pretty good shape this fall, so hopefully you'll keep our fingers crossed that that carries through next spring as well.
We weren't planning on snow on the 1st of November for construction, but I'm sure nobody was, so.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion to receive would be in order. Councillor Parker, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Any discussion? None, we'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, please.
Also under the order of delegations, Your Worship, a presentation from Andrew Mock and representatives of the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee regarding the Stone Fence Rehabilitation Project.
Very good, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Reg Hildebrand. I'm a member of the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, and my co-presenter is Andrew Mock, and he's with the Planning, Property and Buildings Department. We're here today to talk about the Stone Fence Rehabilitation Project, and I would like to thank Mayor and Council for this opportunity to speak, and thank you very much for your help with the project to date. And we're going to hopefully give you a project background, an update on Phase 1, a request for Phase 2, and at the end we'll finish off with a question and answer period. So starting with the background of the project, it was designated as a municipal heritage site in 2003. It runs essentially the full length of 17th Street between Princess and Rosser. You can see it on the screen there. There's a short section on Rosser Avenue. The section or the stretch on 17th Street is divided into multiple sections which are divided by driveways and walkways. It runs the full length of Princess Avenue between 17th and 18th, uninterrupted, with a short section on 18th Street. It's owned by the City of Brandon and sits on several properties. As you can see from these pictures, there were two sections that were in very bad shape. There were some trees that appeared to be pushing the fence over because they were planted extremely close to the fence. And those are the two sections that are the second and the third sections from Princess. The rest of the fence seems to be in pretty decent shape.
Your Worship and Councillors, so we need to take action on this stone fence for a couple of reasons. First of all, to prevent the loss of heritage arising from the collapse of the structure. Second reason also is to eliminate a life safety risk due to the structure being in a precarious situation. We also needed to obtain funding, not just from City Council through the capital budget, but also to leverage from other sources such as the Government of Manitoba to enable this project. We also needed to assure that the affected property owners that they will not be responsible or nor liable for maintenance of this structure, despite being located on their properties, as the stone fence is a City of Brandon owned asset. Just to refresh Council with respect to their own strategic plan, this project does align with two of the strategic plan elements. First of all, with downtown revitalization, it is a city asset located at the west gateway of the hub, and we are, as a city, one of several stewards of historic downtown resources. In terms of financial stewardship, we have been seeking best value for reinvesting in our historic resources, and we were also seeking additional sources of funding to limit costs directly to the city.
In 2017, the City Council set aside $25,000 in capital money to help refurbish this fence. It wasn't enough to complete the entire job, so the project was split into two phases. The City of Brandon successfully obtained conditional approval for funding under Manitoba's Designated Heritage Building Grants Program, initially for $5,000. That was in July, but that was increased to $10,000 in October of 2017. The City of Brandon ran a request for quotes process. Stiles Masonry was the lowest of the two bids received and won the contract in September of 2017. Work on the structure began in October 2017 and was completed as of November 14th, 2017. Work included removal of both trees and roots, deconstruction of the structure, construction of new concrete footing foundation, and reconstruction of the structure on the new foundation. The brick columns at the end of the reconstructed matching columns further north along 17th Street. All columns along the stone fence originally had brick visible.
So your Worship and Councillors, the project is almost done. We still have some minor things to do on the site, which we are intending to finish in the spring of this year. Despite this challenge, the project did come under budget, with costs totaling just over $23,000 due to actual costs being lower than originally estimated, despite the poor weather conditions. Furthermore, with the additional provincial funding, we do get a net savings to the City of Brandon capital budget, almost $12,000, or about 48% of the budgeted amount. And as an update, we last week submitted final paperwork to receive the provincial funding.
So the remaining section of fence, which is located at 147 18th Street, is slightly longer than the first repaired section at 11 meters, but the trees were already removed, and the section right now currently is fenced off for public safety reasons.
So we are estimating that for this section to be completed, it will take about up to $30,000, which we're hoping to get total this year. With the money that we've saved in the 2017 project, we believe then the net new money for 2018 would be $18,000, actually. We, first of all, have a more realistic idea of the costs of this project, thanks to the knowledge we acquired from Phase 1. We do know that Phase 2 is a longer section than Phase 1. And we are also assuming a worst-case scenario that we do not obtain provincial funding and that we experience poor weather, such as unseasonably wet or cold conditions. Once we know how much of the capital budget, we will commit to this project. We will apply for the provincial grant program again for phase 2, make sure that they can help offset some of these costs.
Okay, in closing, on behalf of MHAC, we thank the following: City Council for the support in the project so far, the City of Brandon staff for helping in moving this project forward, including Planning, Property and Buildings Department, Engineering and Water Resources Department, the Finance Department, Community Services Department, the Government of Manitoba for grant funding, and Styles Masonry for work on the structure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. We've got some hands up already. Councillor Desjardins, go first.
Thank you, through your worship. Thank you for your presentation, and Happy New Year to both of you. You did forget to mention, although it's not as popular as it once was, this is an important Pokestop as well. Let someone tell you that. But really what you're asking for, because we did agree to funding it to 25,000 last year, you're really only asking for an additional 5,000 total from the city. Is that correct? Because we're under budget right now, so you're asking for an additional 18, but we saved 12. Is that correct?
Through the chair to
we saved
Councillor
13?
Desjardins, we did have some savings, yes. So about $12,000.
Right. So we had funded 25 grand for the stone fence last year, but we saved 13.
We saved. Sorry.
We've only put in 12.
We would have only put in $13,000. Sorry, we saved $12,000.
So it's an additional. Help me with my math. 6,000.
No.
But we didn't spend the 25.
Yeah, so what he said was that their estimate for the next phase was 30,000, but we saved 12.
Right.
So it would be a net additional funds
18.
needed for 2018 of 18,000.
Okay.
And this is, if I may clarify, this is assuming that we apply for the funding from the province, but for whatever reason we are denied this time.
Okay. But so you're asking for an additional 18, but the total amount that is 30 for this project.
For phase 2, that is correct.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
I can't recall, did you have your hand up, Councillor Harwood?
No, I didn't.
Sorry. Okay, I'm not sure if there are any other hands, so I know we are going to be dealing with this later under the general business as well. So again, thanks to both of you gentlemen, and good job on the first phase of the project and having it done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to receive would be in order, please. Councillor Harwood?
Yes, Your Worship, I move that the presentation by Andrew Mock with respect to an update on the stone fence rehabilitation project be received.
Seconder, please. Councillor Desjardins, any discussion?
We're good?
Go ahead, Councillor Desjardins.
Just briefly, getting back to that, they asked for 25 last year, but they only spent 12, right? So in reality, they're only asking for an additional $5,000 from the city. Because they didn't spend the other 13.
Yeah, so we counted that into, but then they need 30 to finish the job. But he's carrying over the 12, leaving 18 of new money required.
You have to help me out with that.
Oh, another $30,000 to finish the fence.
The project cost $23,000, and we put in 25 last year, but we only had to spend 12 of that.
Right.
Right? So we did not put 25 in last year, we only put in 12.
Yeah, so he's saying of the 25 that we put in last year, there's 12 left over. And the 12 left over is suggested to go towards the 2018 project of 30.
Okay, thanks.
Means that 18
Additional
of
18.
new money is required.
Less any provincial funding.
Pardon?
Less any provincial
Right.
funding.
Okay. Any other discussion before we call the question? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, Madam Clerk.
A presentation from Darren Gelichik regarding the Tournament of Champions and the reinstatement of gift in kind services.
I have to declare a conflict as I'm on the board.
Okay, very good. Councillor Parker Leaf. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Darren Galtic, and I am the chairman of the Tournament of Champions Committee. The TOC is entering its 49th year in our city, and we're excited for this year's edition and those to come in the future. I'm here today to ask for an extension of the gift in kind that the City of Brandon has generously given to our event in the past. The TOC runs Friday to Sunday over the first 2 weekends of February. This year we will host 81 teams in 7 different divisions with approximately 1,400 individual competitors. When factored in with coaches, parents, chaperones, officials, and volunteers, the number of people involved in our tournament will total well over 5,000. We look forward to showcasing our city as well as some very entertaining hockey over the 2 weekends. As you can imagine, the economic impact of having 5,000 people in and around our city spread out over 6 days is very large in terms of food, lodging, fuel, etc. Historically, the City of Brandon has eliminated ice costs at the Sportsplex during regular business hours on the 2 Fridays of the tournament. The total number of hours gifted to the TOC is 16, 8 on each of the 2 Fridays. This is a win-win for our tournament and the City of Brandon. On most Fridays, this ice sits unused. However, during the 2 Fridays of our tournament, the Sportsplex is a very busy facility, running from dusk to dawn type of thing. Hundreds of players, coaches, and family will be using the building throughout the day. In addition to the arena, these visitors will be keeping the canteen busy, adding revenue to the Sportsplex. Many teams and families will also take the opportunity to swim while they are in Brandon at the Sportsplex. And then after the Friday at 4 o'clock, the TOC is on the hook for full rates of ice rental throughout the rest of the week, the 2 weekends. Our committee considers this gift as a corporate partnership that allows us to put on a first-rate tournament for our participants. Over the past 3 years, we have not raised entry fees, and at this point do not have any plans to do so in the near future. We have, however, attempted to give our teams and players a value-added experience. For example, last year we added a complimentary lunch for all participants on the 2 Saturdays of the tournament. This is very well attended, and we will be continuing this event this year, hoping to make it even better. This type of item adds a large cost to our tournament, whereas the city's donation of ice costs allows us to continue such items and to continue to improve our tournament without impacting the finances of our participants. In closing, the donations in the past have been greatly appreciated, and we look forward to continuing this relationship in the future. I will gladly answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Darren. We'll open up the floor for questions. Councillor Reggio.
Thank you. Through you to Darren. Darren, do you also apply for accommodation tax grants?
Yes, we do.
And how much do you get?
We get $7 per room night, which in the upcoming year we have about 2,200 rooms booked at this time over the course of the 2 weekends, which again is duly noted and appreciated, and it's in our budget that way as well.
Other questions? Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, thank you. Is there an agreement that's expired, or because I don't remember us making a sort of an overt change, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, the agreement was done in 2013. It was a 5-year plan at that time. And as our TOC committee has changed, most of us have only been on the board for 3 years now, and didn't realize that was the way it was in place, and that's why we're here today.
So you're sort of asking for the existing agreement to be renewed?
Yes. Okay. And the number of years, obviously, we'd like to see another 5-year agreement. If we want to do a year-to-year basis, that's fine too. We're not going to argue with anything like that, but it would be nice to have something set in stone going forward for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Barry.
Yes, thank you, Worship, through you to the Speaker. Darren, I remember the 5-year agreement because I was the one that put the motion forth back in 2013. At the time, you guys were actually getting ice on those business hours for both Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
Now you're just asking for Friday.
Correct.
So it's basically cut almost in half what you're asking for. But we also planted some seed money into Tournament Champions at that time too, to the tune of $25,000. And we have also, over the years, given money out of the combination tax because of growth in divisions, the Bantam Showcase one year, for example, that type of thing. So my question is basically, since we've kind of chipped in all those years and that, where is the tournament sitting financially right now? Are you guys viable? Are you breaking even every year? Are you losing money? Are you making money? How are you sitting?
Great question. Years past, probably from that 2013 year till 2016, the tournament lost money on a consistent basis. One year, I think it was the 2015 year, was in the $20,000 range for a loss. 2016 and 2017, we turned a profit in both of those years. 2018, we were budgeting a profit. We're talking $10,000 to $15,000 as a budgeted profit. And with that, our tournament is owned by Hockey Brandon, so we're feeding that money right back, to pay off the debt that we had for the 3 years previous, and then any profit does go back right into the hockey community through Hockey Brandon.
Follow up, Your Worship. Actually, it's not a question for Darren, but I'm hoping our budget person, Mr. Hammond, can help us out here. Has this fund been put in the request under community development under ice rentals for Sportsplex, that this would be included as a gift in kind? Do we know that?
Mr. Hammond just characteristically left the room, but I get that. So your question again, though, Councillor Berry?
Well, this would have had to be included in the budget as a gift in kind. It still would have had to show in the budget. I'm just wondering if it was in our budget numbers for 2018 as to whether we were still going to continue doing this or not, or whether it's not included in the 2018 budget.
Yeah, so that will be a very germane question. I suspect that notwithstanding Council's point of view from this, that we will likely want to, apart from just receiving the report, we may want to refer this to administration to get a little more background, which be obviously including that question prior to budget. Budget's going to roll up here in less than 2 weeks. So what's the date of the tournament again?
February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and then 9th, 10th, and 11th.
So if time for budget will be just under the wire prior to the tournament as well. Councillor Berry.
Yes.
Oh, hang on a sec. Were you finished, Councillor Berry?
Yes.
We'll go to Councillor Barry Cullen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Darren, have you had conversations with administration at this point? Like, have you gone into negotiations with them, or you just saw that this was happening and showed up here today?
Sportsplex administration? Or
Yes.
sorry?
Like obviously there's an agreement signed, so when it expires, you're coming around to either renegotiate it or come through. Have you had conversations with the Sportsplex and the administration on this?
Very minimal. It basically it started with contacting the Sportsplex, and then that's where we kind of got our history lesson of there was more of a formal agreement than in play, and that's where we returned to where we are today, basically.
Okay, Thank you.
Any other questions of the presenter? Seeing none, I think it's fairly straightforward. So thank you very much, Darren, and good luck with this year's tournament for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Berry.
Yes, Your Worship. I'd like to make the motion that the presentation by Darren Galachek regarding the reinstatement of the gift in kind services for the Tournament of Champions be received, and that it is included in budget deliberations for discussion, pending reports back from administration regarding funding of the ice time from the Sportsplex on this.
Very good. Seconder on that, please. Councillor Loreggio. Mover wish to speak?
No, Darren's given a good presentation. We have a good understanding of what they're asking for. Being involved in the very first motion of it, I know very well what they were given and what they're asking for. So I think we need to talk about it at budget deliberations just to kind of see where everything's at. So.
Yeah. Okay. Seconder wish to speak? Any further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
Also under the order of delegations, Your Worship, a presentation from Richard Bruce and Tyler Foster from the 2018 Westman Multicultural Festival Committee.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. My name is Richard Bruce, and Tyler.
I'm Tyler Foster. I'm a professor at the university and also a member of the Cultural Society.
So we're actually here to do three things. We want to tell you a little, or remind you a little bit about the festival, ask for a community event delegation, and Tyler's going to ask you to reconsider a grant. So we all know that the festival actually started from a dare from the then Lieutenant Governor Peter Lieber to then the Mayor, His Worship Dave Burgess, which he accepted, and it still runs, and it does well. In terms of provincial festivals, it's rated quite highly, which is a bit odd because it takes place in the end of January and the first part of February, so we're competing with other festivals that in much better climate. In the beginning, from its beginning till 2015, the City of Brandon was heavily invested in it in terms of staff and dollars, and the then city manager and I had a conversation about whether that was appropriate, and we both agreed that it really isn't appropriate for the city to be vested in it as heavily as you were in terms of staff dollars. It really wasn't your job to do that, although it morphed to that, and it now has shifted. So it basically is all run by volunteers within the city, and we've had to go out and find other sources of money, but that creates issues for us from time to time because we do not, as an organization, we do not have a lot of money. Tyler will go over the financial part. So I'm going to stop there and then ask for a community event designation for the Winter Festival for 2018. This year we have 9 pavilions: the English Pavilion, Honduran Pavilion, Indian Pavilion is actually new, the Irish Pavilion, the Métis Pavilion was away last year and is back this year, Mexico Pavilion, which is new, Philippine Pavilion, Scottish Pavilion, and the Ukrainian Pavilion. What do I ask for now, Your Worship?
Well, I think it'll be appropriate. We'll have you gentlemen completely finish your presentation. Kind of at the end of that, Council will have various motions. One of the motions, of course, that's been recommended for us to consider is the motion that would designate the event as a community event. So that'll be dealt with. Your overall presentation would be dealt with just have been received, and then I guess any other requests, depending what they are, may get referred to budget or whatever Council's wishes. So we'll let you finish your presentation, and then Council will kind of take over from there.
Thank you. Just a bit of structure and history of the festival. As it stands, the pavilions are all run by local multicultural or cultural societies. I myself come from the Irish Board of Western Manitoba, for example. It's these nonprofit groups that put on the pavilions. Each pavilion takes a large risk in running each year. There's a lot of initial cash layout. There's rental fees to consider for the venues. There's renting a sound system. There's bringing in entertainment, sometimes even from out of country. These costs are a risk, an investment by each cultural society, and each pavilion, the only chance they have to make that money back is through sales of food and drink, because there's no, as you know, there's no charge to get into the festival or any of the pavilions, and we don't intend to go there with this either. The average cost per pavilion, just for rental and rental of a venue and for sound system, is about $4,000. And we have 9 mouths to feed, so to speak, this year, 9 pavilions, so that's $36,000 that we're going to have to, as a society, help out the pavilions as much as we can to recoup those that investment. So we had approached the city this summer through the community grants and asked for, I believe, $19,000. We asked for, no, 20. We asked for $11,000 in kind contribution, the same as last year. Last year, the city was able to put us on their insurance rider for liability insurance for all the pavilions. That is valued at about $11,000 for all 9 pavilions, and so we wanted to do that again. We also asked for a $9,000 cash contribution. We received $5,000, which, thank you for that, but I'm here to ask for more. The pavilions are also funded through principally through the federal government. We've been partnered pretty heavily with the Department of Canadian Heritage. They have a grant known as the Multicultural Interaction Grant, which is up to $25,000 from the federal government, matched, and it is matched against every dollar that we raise, up to $25,000 from other sponsors. So that is our big hitter grant. We're also partnered with the province. The Minister of Sport, Culture and Heritage has supported the festival every year. And we're partnered with local businesses, including this year, brand new, RBC is going to be supporting us. Manitoba Liquor Lotteries, local unions, other businesses. In fact, some of the radio stations that we purchase ad spots on, they actually throw lots of extra in-kind ads to us because they support us heavily. In short, I think you can see that the city supports this, the broad public supports this. So what we're asking for, just to cut to the chase, is we got $5,000 from the municipal grant this summer. We were told the insurance could not be extended again this year like it was last year by the city. So now we're on the hook for liability insurance. The pavilions, again, that's valued at $11,000, so I'm here to ask for another $6,000 to bring up that 5 to 11 so that we have liability insurance. As well, one of the really important things that we've been told by public that is important to them is transit service for the festival. I'm not sure entirely when that stopped, what year. I think it might have been 2014. But it's been missed sorely by the public. And we can see it in our attendance numbers. At the Irish Pavilion, I keep track of it every year, and I can see that the year that there was no transit, we started a downward slope. And it's the same for the whole festival. So people come, they want to be able to hop a bus, they want to be able to do a tour of all the pavilions in the city. We're here to ask the city to partner with us, RBC being the other partner, to help us with transit funds. We're here to ask the city for that as well.
We'd be glad to answer any questions, Your Worship.
Excellent. I've got one hand up already, and I'm sure there'll be other questions. I've got Councillor Patterson first.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the presenters. I'm chair of the Grants Review Committee, so I kind of want to clarify just a few things. So first, Grants Review doesn't approve in-kind services from the city. That's something you'd have to work out through administration or through the appropriate departments. Grants Review just straight up approves grants. And just so you're aware, while we have done the initial approvals, the final approvals happen during our budget debate. So that $5,000 you're referring to has been approved by the committee and sent from council to budget debate. But sort of that reconsideration of adding $6,000 can be done when we debate our budget in a couple of weeks. So that's on all of our radar. So I guess that'll be the will of council in a couple of weeks. But I did just want to make sure that you knew and understood that. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes folks do think the Grants Review Committee can do that, but it's in our application we just do straight up money. So the in-kind pieces will be separate from Grants Review.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I have Councillor Fawcett.
Yes, thank you, through your worship, to the presenters, but also possibly it would be to Mr. Sage and such. So the in-kind piece, is it something that should just be brought to management that they can maybe address that, the in-kind piece? I want to just get clarity here. You were under the impression that the city just wasn't going to do the in-kind this year?
The in-kind was, I brought it with me actually. Last year the in-kind was in the form of the city putting us on the certificate of insurance from Western Financial Group. signed actually by Western Financial Group. And the city is able to do this and put all the pavilions' liability insurance under their coverage. We were told this year, I'm not precisely what the wording was, but not because the city doesn't want to do it, but because the provider won't do it.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted that to be clear, because I think we had quite a discussion about it that got us to that point a few years ago. So now it's back to just sort of more or less supplying the dollars to get your funding. Okay, so just a clarity there. And then I did want to ask about the bus. So I see Royal Bank is contributing something towards busing. And what is the actual ask for there? And again, this goes back a few years. I thought at the time the city actually did a bus route simply for the pavilions, right? So that 3 days, so that's what the request is again, not just sort of, it's for a separate route, separate bus, just doing the route. Okay, again, that's just for clarity's sake, that's the request, right? Yeah.
Okay.
And sorry, and we have a rough cost on that?
We haven't costed that out yet, Mr. Sage.
Your Worship, through you to Council, the request is to review the transit portion based on numbers when transit was last run, which I believe was 2015. The difference now is the pavilions are more centrally located as opposed to community centers that were all over the city. So the routes used for this could be less. At the end of the day, I believe that the city would work through the festival organizing committee to determine what the best route was based on the dollar values that were available. So one of the discussions I had with Mr. Bruce was if he's able to obtain a certain amount of funding, we might be able to match that to make this happen, with the understanding that it might be hour service as opposed to half-hour service. And if there was already existing routes going by a pavilion, we wouldn't put another bus by it, but we could look at the routes to find something that would work for both groups to be able to say we have public transportation for the Winter Festival. If we use the numbers from 2015, it was around $4,000.
That's hence the Royal Bank's contribution.
And if I could, Your Worship, to add on to Councillor Fawcett's concern regarding insurance, we have to remember that when this festival started, the pavilions were largely in community centers. The community centers were owned by the city, hence we could put it on our insurance. The pavilions now are not in city facilities, therefore we cannot have insurance rider for buildings that are not a city asset.
Right, or the majority is not in city buildings. I think there's one or two versus...
I don't know if there is one or two.
No.
I don't think there's any.
Center, the only one.
And community center.
There's one.
North End
Indian
Community Center.
facilities in the north end.
And that's their first time in the actually at the North End Community Center. Everybody else is in private building of some description.
Yeah, okay.
So when follow this a little bit, when the, would you call it, Mr. Bruce, transition from being sort of operated by the city and then it was transitioned over to being run by the nonprofit organization, and sort of through anybody's fault, they kind of realized that it was no longer the city's, and therefore the organization had to run out and acquire the insurance themselves. That it was 2 years ago for $11,000, so it was kind of a big hit. So then the next year, which was last year, we said, well, I wonder if we could still, it's kind of a community event, if it could still be put under our insurance. So the management were able to contacted the carrier, and the carrier said, yeah, we could do that. Then I think they realized they ought not to have done that, as it was not really a city, a Brandon event anymore, and not in any of our, so we kind of got lucky last year. So the carriers come back and say that we can't do that again. So now we're back to getting private insurance for the $11,000. So that's where
That's understood. Even for a person like me, I got it.
Yeah. Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to either city manager or even the presenters, maybe you can answer this. I'm a little confused about why the liability insurance. There's functions being held at a lot of these venues every weekend. And every time there's a function there, I don't recall somebody having to take out liability insurance on their own because they're having something there. So I'm not quite understanding why you guys have to. If we're having a social at the Ukrainian National Home, I don't have to take out liability insurance because we're having it there. They've already got it. So why would this be treated any different?
Well, I can speak to one thing about that is the federal government, our big partner, it's mandatory to carry liability insurance. We can't even apply for the big grant. That grant. As to why we're in a hotel, for example.
Yeah, exactly. That's my whole point.
But others have actually asked, and my understanding is just because this is an event that takes place throughout the city and it sort of rolls forward all the time, it's not in a single building. There's some impact on that.
Right, and through that, Your Worship, that's correct. But the fact is, all these buildings you're in will have insurance and will have liability insurance. So it's almost like you're double coveraging for having to. I don't quite understand the need for it when.
I don't believe we pay when we're at the Royal Oak, now the Clarion. I don't believe we are charged anything for insurance.
No, and you shouldn't be.
Because they have.
Because they have it.
Okay.
Exactly.
Perhaps it has something to do with serving alcohol. I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll carry on. I got Councillor Cullen next.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to our presenters. What about our sister events that are happening in Winnipeg and those kind of things? Are they having the same issue with their festivals and, throughout the year in Winnipeg? Have you had a chance to maybe put out some feelers in Winnipeg and sort of find out how they deal with that here at,
Insurance
there?
part?
Yes.
No, we've not asked.
Might be a good idea just to sort of, flat up a poll, see if there's something there that, best practice somewhere that take a look at that.
The Folklorama in Winnipeg, they do charge admission for all of them. So they do make a lot of money just by charging a cover charge for every day.
But again, I'd like you to sort of find out whether they're getting they found a different way of maybe doing this that we don't know about. So maybe just, if you wouldn't mind doing that, that'd be great.
We'll ask the question.
Thank you.
I'll just preempt a little bit that, I'm pretty sure this is going to end up at our budget table on the 19th and 20th of January, and I would suggest that maybe between your organization and ours, we do have a risk management department that know a little bit about insurance, that we could probably put our heads together and maybe even get some advice from the insurance industry, to cover off that we are not double covering, like that we're not sort of superseding the insurance that already exists. I will say, I'm not an insurance expert, but when something does happen, victims end up sort of suing everybody. There may be liability on the part of the building that it occurred in, but there may be liability on the part of the organization. The organization in this case happens to be the Westman Multicultural Festival, and you likely don't have a umbrella insurance that's going to be covering sort of your part of the equation. So I'm thinking that's where the necessity comes in to have insurance. But I think that it would be time well spent to just cover that off collectively, half of the city, Westman Multicultural Festival, the individual buildings. Let's not make sure that we're not spending money that doesn't need to be spent. So I think that we can undertake to do that between now and budget. So that would be all right with council. But we'll carry on with the speakers list. I have Councillor Desjarlais next.
Thank you, through your worship. I'll let go the insurance line for a bit and go back to the attendance and pavilions. Is there an opportunity to somehow inform residents how busy some of the pavilions are? I think that often what might be happening is some people might have the intent to go out to some of the pavilions, but knowing that some of the more well-attended pavilions end up having crazy long lineups, and if it's cold out, they're just less likely to bundle up their kids and give it a shot. But if there was an app or a website or something, it's a 20-minute wait at the Irish Pavilion, it's 10 minutes here, and people had that at their disposal, we might see the attendance pick up, or people might be more inclined to go.
Yeah, there is a good opportunity. That's a good point. Our website does have a lot of social media plugins. It's updated constantly and live throughout the festival by our webmaster. I could speak to him about putting in wait times for pavilions, for example.
Because my kid would appreciate it, because he doesn't like waiting for a half hour in line, but if he knew it was 5 minutes, he might come in and listen.
Okay. Councillor Reggio was next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Along the lines of transit, just a suggestion, perhaps we could look at on New Year's Eve, we provide free bus rides on regular routes, so maybe for the Culture Festival, instead of having a special bus, we could just utilize the regular routes and offer free bus rides. That way we could keep, hopefully, potentially impaired people off the roads into our buses. We're utilizing buses that are on the road that are virtually riding around empty at that time of night anyways. So it could be a win-win situation. So I'll just throw that out.
Thank you. And we have Councillor Parker next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to toss this out. The insurance thing has been beat to death, and as perplexed as Councillor Barry is, I would certainly spend the time, as the Mayor indicated, to look into that. But the locations, if you look at the locations, I would suggest for transit, they lend themselves to a pretty easy loop with 3 in the west end and 3 in the north end, a couple in the central, and 1 in the best part of town out in the east end there. It's a pretty easy loop to just continue, and it looks like it'd be easy to set up, so if we're thinking that direction, it's awfully manageable, I would suggest.
Very good. That's the end of my speakers list. Anybody else have questions of the presenters? Councillor Fawcett.
Yeah, just quickly through Your Worship, again, not to beat the insurance to death, but I think that as council, we just went through that a while back with ourselves and the school board, with our different groups coming into the schools and all that. And even though the schools had insurance, other user groups needed to get insurance. So I think quickly we would find the answer to this. We just spent a couple of years talking about that with the school division. So there is a reason that they'll need it. So it's just, I guess, nice to find out what it is.
And Councillor Chaboyer.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to reiterate what Councillor Fawcett was saying to my experience when we were dealing with having clubs using the schools, different organizations that were having sporting events or anything. They always had to be sure that there was extra liability insurance from all those organizations. So we've been down that road before, and we even went so far to check with the provincial government on that through the, because they're responsible for the school divisions. And I'm sure it's legislation too that they required insurance, liability insurance. So it's not a surprise to me. I know that I'm involved in Labor Day events and in different public events, and we've always had to get extra coverage when you're inviting public to events, and I think it's good to have extra coverage. Just one thing I wanted to add, that when we're facing our budget deliberations, I'm in full support of this festival. I think it's an integral part of our cultural experience in the city, and I'm hoping that council will support extra funding for your event, because it is incredibly important to experience what other cultures are doing and what they offer to the table. It's an absolute beautiful experience, and I think that the city of Brandon should be included in this event. I know that you went off on having your own nonprofit, but at the same time, I think it is a partnership, and we have a responsibility to support you.
Didn't have any other hands up so far, so take them. There are not. Add to Councillor Chaboyer's comments. I have the pleasure of getting to every pavilion, as you know, and it's fabulous and certainly just amazing the spirit that is throughout our community that weekend in the middle of our coldest part of the year. So it is great that we've got that to kind of break up the winter time, and kudos for kind of getting the pavilion numbers back up this year with some new pavilions. I think it'll be exciting to see about 2 or 3 new cultures and some returning cultures there. So very great to see. So unless you gentlemen have any further things to add, council will step through a couple of motions that we need to have, and I think that you can kind of count on hearing from administration over the next several days on a couple of these pieces. I think council likely has a willingness, obviously, to obviously make sure that the event succeeds. Let's just do it in the most efficient manner possible on behalf of everybody's part of the equation. So thank you very much for coming out, and look forward to a great festival for 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So a motion to receive the presentation would be first in order. Councillor Brown.
The presentation by Richard Bruce and Tyler Foster with respect to obtaining community event designation to the 2018 Westman Multicultural Festival to be held February 1st to 3rd, 2018 be received.
Seconder, please. Councillor Patterson. We're just going to do that part first, Councillor Brown. So any discussion on the motion to receive? Seeing none, call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now a motion to approve it being designated a community event, which apparently does have some implications with Manitoba Liquor and Lottery, so that's why typically we do pass this motion for that sake. So who would like to make the motion? Again, Councillor Brown, go ahead.
That the Westman Multicultural Festival to be held February 1st to 3rd, 2018 be hereby designated as a community event in the city of Brandon, whereby said festival shall include the following pavilions at the listed locations. English Pavilion at Victoria Inn at 3550 Victoria Avenue. Honduran Pavilion at Ukrainian Reading Hall at 1005 Assiniboine Avenue. Indian Pavilion, Northeast Community Center, 1313 Stickney Avenue. Irish Pavilion, Clareton Hotel and Suites at 3150 Victoria Avenue. The Métis Pavilion, the Westman Centennial Auditorium at 205 20th Street. Irish Pavilion, Mexico Pavilion, Brandon Shrine Club at 1010 McTavish Avenue East. Philippine Pavilion at St. Matthew's Church at 403 13th Street. The Scotia Pavilion, Victoria Inn Hotel at 3550 Victoria Avenue. And the Ukrainian Pavilion at the Ukrainian National Home at 1133 Stickney Avenue.
Seconder, please. Councillor Patterson. Mover wish to speak? Seconder wish to speak? Any other discussion? This will be on this part of the just the designation, so we probably don't have any discussion. So call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now, with respect to the requests, I'm guessing that the requests might be in order to be referred to administration and to budget deliberations for council's consideration. If somebody wanted to make such a motion, that would be helpful. Councillor Brown?
I would like to just consider the request for budget deliberations.
Okay. Referred to administration and to budget deliberation. Is seconder for that, please? Councillor Patterson. Any discussion? Okay, council made their wishes fairly well known and suggestions made, so I think administration will know what to do. So with that, we're going to call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll take it from here. Next item, please.
Community question period, Your Worship.
Community question period is an item on the agenda that council holds open for the members in the audience wishing to come to the podium to make representation on any item that's on our agenda tonight. A total of 15 minutes is allowed for question period.
Last year, the second.
Doesn't appear we're going to get any takers for question period tonight, so we'll move on to the next item, please.
The order of committee reports, Your Worship.
Okay, we weren't aware of any, but sometimes committee meetings are held just prior to council, so I'm not seeing any. Move on to the next.
The order of inquiries, Your Worship.
Similarly, we didn't have any in advance, but once in a while we have a few emergencies that popped up. We would take them if you had one. Okay, on to the next item.
The order of announcements, Your Worship.
Announcements. Surely we have some. Councillor Chaboyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to remind the public, invite them out to our Budget Community Forum, 2018 Budget Forum, which will be held this Wednesday, at the City Hall in the foyer from 7 to 9 p.m. And the forum will have an overview from administration. And after that, there'll be a question and answer period held by council. But I think it's important for the public to come out and provide us feedback on what our priorities should be for the 2018 budget.
Very good. Thanks for making that announcement. So once again, reminder, budget forum will be both an information session and the opportunity for public to provide feedback to council and administration. Most councillors are in attendance, and once again, it's this Wednesday, 7 p.m. in City Hall here in the main foyer. So hopefully a great turnout for that. One of the most important functions we do every year is deliberating that budget, and the more feedback we have, the better. So thank you, Councillor Chaboyer. Councillor Fawcett.
Yes, thank you, through your worship. Just an announcement that I missed a fairly a significant little get-together the other day, and I wanted to formally and publicly wish Councillor Cullen a happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Apologize for my missing the event.
We'll refrain from singing him happy birthday again, but we have done so already. So happy birthday, Councillor Cullen. Other announcements? None. We'll move on to the next item, please.
Under the order of general business, Your Worship, consideration of the funding for the stone fence project.
Very good. We had the presentation earlier, and I'm not sure if Mr. Mock was making a further presentation. It was all made in the, I know you'll be available to answer questions if council has any. So a motion would be in order and or discussion. Councillor Desjardins.
Thank you, through your worship. I move that the report of the Heritage Committee planner with respect to the stone fence project dated January 8th, 2018 be received.
Seconder, please. Councillor Harwood. Who wish to speak?
Briefly, your worship, and thank you for allowing me that momentary lapse of mental acuity earlier. Okay. But if we go back to last year, the initial request for the full stone fence project came to council at $110,000, and I thought that was, I think we all agreed that was a little too much money to be putting into this. But if we are to go ahead and approve this new funding agreement, the total from the city would be $43,000, which is $67,000 less than they'd initially asked for, and I think that that's the kind of support that we could consider offering to have the whole fence completed. And the fence looks great, and I certainly think we'd be remiss to allow that one component of the stone fence to stay the way it is right now, which is certainly dilapidated and in need of repair. So.
Very good. This will undoubtedly come up again at budget time. I just can't recall whether the proposal is in the budget or needs to be considered as an add-on, but in either direction, council will certainly be in the driver's seat over that, and we'll get to discuss it again. Seconder wish to speak, Councillor
Your Worship, that's fine. That's good.
Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Fawcett.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. If there's a chance, if even just one of the two that are on the Heritage Committee, because I know they know in a sort of 2-minute blurb for those people that aren't always familiar with the fence as to why we do consider it a heritage fence. I know that we all know because we talk about it, but for those that are just sort of saying, you know what, I want to get involved with City Hall and I just knew what, maybe they could just give us a real quick.
Okay. Councillor Harwood.
Through you to Councillor Fawcett and those listening. The block that we're dealing with is a 100 block of 18th Street from Princess to Rosser. The stone fence is what is left of the, was originally an estate that belonged to, one family, and over the course of, it was about the turn of the 20th century, it belonged to the Smart family, the Whitehead family, and also the Mitchell family as well. And as I said, at one time it was one complete estate, but middle 1940s, late 40s, it was divided up into residential lots.
So one time it had a fence around this glorious
absolutely.
stone fence around this whole estate, and over time part of it was saved, and then what has been saved is come into disrepair on the 17th Street side. So it's been designated as a heritage municipal heritage feature back in 2003, and we're kind of trying to hang on to it. And Councillor Parker next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just, maybe we can get Andrew to confirm, but the additional 30,000 would be if no other level of government provided funding. So that's the maximum we're looking at, correct?
Correct.
It's the total of 43,000.
Through your worship to Councillor Parker, that is correct. We estimate that the Phase 2 section should not cost more than $30,000 total. So we are requesting a total amount in place just in case we are not successful with our application for provincial funding.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Any other discussion on the motion really to receive? And then, of course, we know we'll be dealing with this as part of the budget one way or the other. Seeing not any further, did the mover wish to close? Councillor Desjardins?
No, Your Worship, I think we'll probably be discussing this budget next week.
Very good. The call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, please.
The proposal for the recyclable transport and marketing.
Very good. We do have administration here that can help us through that, so on ahead.
Okay, good evening. The City of Brandon's Material Recovery Facility, or MRF, has been contracting the transport and marketing of recyclable materials to a third party since 2014. Involved in this scope of work is the city staff remove residue and cardboard from the commingled or mixed recycling stream. Then the contractor takes care of the transport and marketing of the three material streams, being commingled, cardboard, and shredded office paper. And they transport these items to various processing plants located throughout the United States and Canada. And the city also receives a rebate for the sale of cardboard and shredded office paper products based on the market price for those commodities. The current agreement that the city has in place with the contractor for providing this service expired on December 31st, 2017. The city issued a request for proposals to obtain a contractor to perform this work starting in January 2018 for a period of 3 to 5 years. Bidders can provide pricing for one or both of the following options. Option 1, residue removed from the commingled stream, and Option 2, no residue removed from the commingled stream. Submissions from 3 companies were obtained, all in good order. The submissions were evaluated by a team who assessed each proposal according to their fee proposal, experience, personnel, past performance, and proposal quality. The details regarding the fee proposals submitted by each company have been provided in the council report. In addition to the cost per ton, the evaluation team also took into consideration any additional charges that the city may incur from the companies in the form of penalties, and as well as the rebate that the city could expect from the sale of the cardboard and shredded office paper. Consensus scoring determined that the proposal submitted by Crown Shred and Recycling Inc. for Option 1, residue removed, rated the highest in the evaluation, and was determined to be the best value with respect to the net financial impact to the city. To determine the net financial impact, actual tonnage shipped from the MRF for 2017 was used to estimate the costs related to each fee proposal. So in conclusion, it is recommended that the proposal received from Crown Shred and Recycling, Inc. for the transport and marketing of recyclable materials with residue removed from the commingled stream for a 5-year term ending December 31st, 2023 be accepted.
Very good. Well, we'll open up the floor to questions of, this is Melissa Habak, by the way. We didn't introduce her. I'm sorry about that.
I was supposed to introduce myself.
We'll open that up. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you very much, Melissa, for the explanation. Just curious, the Crown Shred and Recycling, Inc., not familiar, I don't think we're familiar with them. Are they a Manitoba company or are they out of province? Or?
They're located in Regina, Saskatchewan. Yeah.
And Your Worship, just to follow up, and I take it then they have a track record of experience in this kind of business?
Yes, that was one of the things we looked at in terms of the evaluation of them. Each company had to provide examples of municipalities where they provided a similar service. So they had to provide a minimum of 3, and they provided that plus more. So
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Councillor Chaboyer, who's next?
Thank you, Worship. Through the presenter, this is an extremely important contract, and it's long term. 5 years is a long time. If they do not, this is the new kid on the block, the new company we're dealing with. Do we have an exit clause if the service is not performed as expected?
Yeah, the agreement that we will be signing with them, should they be awarded this evening, then the agreement basically has the standard clauses that all of the agreements that the city has with contractors or consultants. So
the answer is yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Cullen.
Your Worship, through you to Melissa, what is this, I'm curious to see just where this is trending as far as how the last contract was. We just finished 5 years. So now are we making a little more money, or is it costing us more? Like, where's the recycling industry at this point in time as far as how does this contract look like compared to the last 5 years?
It's very similar to last year's costs, net cost to the city. The net cost to the city is basically $1,000 more than what we were presently paying in 2017. So.
I didn't see any other hands up. I think we're good. Thank you very much. Council's wish. Councillor Fawcett.
Thank you. Through your worship, that the proposal submitted by Crown Shred and Recycling for the transport and marketing of recyclable materials with the residue removed from the commingled stream for a 5-year term ending December 3rd, 2023 be accepted.
Seconder, please. Councillor Chaboyer. Whoever wishes to speak.
No, thank you, your worship. I think we covered what was needed there.
Seconder, wish to speak.
No, your worship.
Any other discussion? Seeing none. Call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, please.
Giving of notice, your worship.
Any giving of notice this evening? Seeing none. Next item.
A motion to adjourn would be in order, your worship.
Councillor Barry, seconded by Councillor Parker. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much.
This is yours?
Yeah.